Grab everything and we'll get set for today's Monday music motivation. I think this one's going to be interesting as always. I'm always excited to be doing these things. And I hope that you're starting to get some benefit from doing these things. We've been doing it for several weeks now. And I think there's been lots of good opportunities to sort of be planning and organizing. I really want to know who's been actually keeping up with their templates and filling it out and sticking to it every week, because I promise you, if you thoughtfully fill out your template and if you actually stick to it, it will 100% make a difference in your playing, unless maybe you were already doing this kind of stuff really well. But I bet 98% of people were not this diligent about planning and reflecting and all of that stuff. So if you've been keeping up with it, that's awesome. Let me know how it's been going for you in the comments below. So today, what I want to talk about is a little bit of this idea of identity and sort of reinforcing your identity. But first, let me tell you a little bit about why this came up for me and why I think it would be super beneficial and important for all of you. So last week, I can show you my little plan. Let's see. There we go. So that was my plan for last week. And I scheduled my times, I put them in my calendar. And as I was working through the week, my practice session on Tuesday went really well. I was able to get a lot of things done. And I pretty much accomplished actually both of my goals of the slow practice at the end, getting that comfortable, and then refining the middle. That stuff went pretty well just on Tuesday and just a couple hours of practicing. So I was in a good spot. Then Friday came around and I had Friday as my other time to practice. But I had already accomplished those goals. Friday was actually a really relaxed day for me. I had a quite busy week and had been really productive through the week. And Friday, I looked at my calendar and pretty much the only thing I at least had scheduled, there was lots of stuff to do, but the only thing I had scheduled was my practice session at 11 a.m. And it was so tempting after a pretty busy, tiring week, Friday going into the weekend. It was so tempting to just say, I accomplished my practice goals for the week. I had a good productive week. Like, it's time to relax and hang out, and maybe I won't do my practicing. It was scheduled, so I had already committed to it, but it was really tempting to not do it. But I did do it. And the reason why I did it is to reinforce that identity. I want to be a person who, when I schedule things, I'm committed to it. I'm going to make it happen. I want to be a person who, even when I don't really want to practice, I'm still going to practice. There's a great quote. I don't know who it was by, and this isn't exactly the exact quote, but it says, professionals are people who do what they're passionate about, even when they don't feel like it. That's very butchered, but that's the kind of idea that I was going for, is like, even though I don't really feel like practicing today and I don't really need to practice today, I scheduled it. So I'm going to commit to it to reinforce that identity that I'm a person who commits to what I've scheduled, and I'm a person who shows up and does the work even when I don't really feel like it. And I think that's a really important idea for all of you to consider as well. Hopefully, again, you're doing your plan. I have mine pulled up. I haven't filled it out yet. I'm going to fill it out with all of you right after this video is over. But commit to your practice plan. And once you have it scheduled, don't back out from it, so that you reinforce that identity that you're somebody who shows up and gets the work done. It's interesting. There's a couple other takeaways from this. First of all, this idea of identity comes from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. And James Clear in general, he's really sort of, as far as I can tell, sort of dedicated his career to being like the habit guy and helping people sort of achieve their goals and things like that. And Atomic Habits is a fantastic book that I really recommend everybody reads. And that's where this idea of identity comes from, where when you build in your identity, then you make it happen and it's automatic. The thing that I noticed that was interesting is a couple of weeks ago, I talked about how scheduling is so important. And Tony Robbins has the quote that when you schedule it, it makes it real. And I love that. I think scheduling will help you stay motivated and achieve things on the busy days. I think scheduling works beautifully for that, because when you're busy, you're in action, you're getting everything done, and then practicing comes up on your calendar and on the agenda, and you just get it done and go through it, and it's there. It's easy. It's the days that aren't so busy, I think, where scheduling becomes hard, like I experienced last Friday, where I could have easily just said, no, I'm good, I don't need to do it, I'm not sort of busy getting things done. So it takes even more momentum and more motivation and more effort to get the ball rolling and start doing just the one thing that you might have to do. And that's where the beauty of this identity thing comes in. So I think scheduling is great for when you're busy. I think the identity of being somebody who shows up and being somebody who practices regularly makes a huge difference for those days that aren't so busy. And the beautiful thing about identity is the more you reinforce that you're somebody who practices regularly and shows up when you've scheduled it, no matter what, the more you become somebody who regularly schedules your practicing and puts it in as an appointment that you're not going to miss, the more that reinforces that identity. And then the easier it becomes in the future. Once you identify as a person who shows up regularly and does the work, then you just keep doing it because that's who you are. And that's sort of what the Atomic Habit books talks about. Atomic Habits book talks about when it comes to identity, and it's such a useful tool to be thinking about. And the one other thing identity wise that forced me to do it was actually these videos. I didn't want to show up and be like, oh, I actually didn't practice on Friday, even though I had it scheduled. I'm trying to create that identity and reinforcing that identity that I'm going to practice what I preach to, so that it's not just helpful for all of you, but it's helpful for me as well. And having that identity as a teacher who, again, practices what they preach, I think is really, really important for me. So hopefully this gives you some food for thought. Most importantly, again, reinforce that identity that you're somebody who is organized and schedules your practicing and moves forward. And right when I'm done with this video, in just a couple minutes, fill out your template. Again, you can check the links in the description for the free members area to get this template. But it's very simple. It's just the date for this week, which is 10/24, the reflection of how things are going, your goal to accomplish this week, and your plan for when you're going to make it happen. And then once you have that plan of practice times and what you're going to be doing, put that in your calendar, set reminders, do whatever system works for you to treat it as an appointment that you're not going to miss, and then reinforce that identity that you're not going to miss those appointments, and reinforce the identity that you're going to schedule it and get it done. So go do that right now, and I will see you next week on the next Monday Music Motivation. Bye.